Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 22nd, and ridiculously, they nerfed cards and made changes while we are still in the middle of the long drawn out Rise of the Shadows expansion. Week 2 of the solo adventure is happening tomorrow. So I didn't do any real prep work on here. I just didn't really want to spend the time on it, frankly. I was too busy playing the Doom reboot or playing on my phone or just doing other things. But my plan here is to disenchant all these cards if I have them. And I may do this off screen because I may not have a list. Yeah, I don't think I have a list easy to access. I'm gonna just disenchant them all for dust, and then when I get a classic card pack, almost certainly I will get all of these cards back because these are just classic cards. I did look on the Reddit subforum for Hearthstone. I don't read that very frequently at all, and it seemed like most people were cool with most of the nerfs, but preparation in particular ruins the rogue deck and makes it all rogue cards from the past a lot worse, at least all rogue spell cards, because there's this was like a key linchpin, a keystone for all of the other cards that they had designed. Everything had been designed with preparation in mind, and now that's not the case. So yeah, unless there was a way that I could type in nerf or nerfed, like they're making it rather difficult here to see how you would find these cards. Let's see, because you'd have to come in the classic, you'd have to just look for them, and let's see, you just have to find them here. So yeah, and you only have a week to do this, so you're gonna have to, like, ideally what you should do is disenchant this for dust now and just not recraft it with the dust, because it still would cost you 400 dust. Just disenchant them now and hope you'll get these cards eventually from card packs, or you leave it alone, you don't play those games, and you maintain a complete collection of cards. Although the nerfed cards probably change nothing now because you probably won't be playing them anymore. It also means, for comparison's sake, that any of these custom pre-built decks were built on what is now outdated information, and so if there is a custom rogue deck here and it has preparation in it, which it does, it's still going to have that in there, even though now preparation does something very different, making the deck play differently. I also tried and failed to do the solo adventure while nobody was off screen, and yeah, I think that'll probably be the case. We need to do 3 tavern brawls, ideally with paladin and warrior, and so then ideally with paladin. What is this deck? What's today's tavern brawl? Two Gnome Gums are testing their prototype card bot Optimatron. The card you draw with 1 on turn 1 will be 1 cost card. If you have one on turn 2, it costs 2. Okay. So that seems like that's just going to change the cost and not really affect anything. So Paladin, copy to save time. My Paladin deck works very well. Come over here, create deck, just paste it in. And we can get going. I'm trying something new today. It may work, it may not. Twitter suggested that I follow a new video game website. Seems like it's probably run by maybe just a couple of people. They mentioned 2 locations, so that means that at least 2 people are working on it. It's called Niche Gamer, although in all fairness, if you tried to look up Niche Gamer, I wouldn't be surprised if you ran into a completely different Twitter feed than what I'm following, or a different website.
You asked for it.
I will
There's
fight with honor.
Probably, so far, if I was just to make a snap judgment here, it's probably not adding any new information. So I probably will stop following it just because it's repeating exactly what other sources are saying. That being said, maybe I'll get rid of other sources. Where it's really going to boil down to is if they have any news if they break any news themselves. That this is the difference between a real website and just a aggregator. Do they break any new news themselves, or are they just repeating what everybody else is saying? Even the websites that do break news in the video game journalism world are 99.9% aggregators and just repeating what other people say. And they could write their own articles and reviews, and that might be slightly helpful, but I really am not in the business of looking at other people's reviews because that just takes more time. But we may have some new stories here but I would say take them with a bit of a grain of salt because I haven't fully vetted this news source, and so there might be straight up just falsity in their reporting. And so yeah, we'll take that with a grain of salt. Before we hop into that, I'm still playing the Doom reboot. There is something majorly off with the pacing of the Doom 2016 reboot. I described it as I was playing as it lets you take a bite of pizza where you have these combat encounters, and then it makes you run a mile to burn off the calories of that bite of pizza, and then you get another bite of pizza, and it's just very oddly paced in the way it feels, and it doesn't feel particularly great. All the demons, even on easy, are bullet sponges, and there's relatively small amounts of demons. The AI in the characters is pretty bad. It's starting to feel that way because you have a lot of AI that don't run towards you and will try to keep their distance, but then they'll hit a specific time and then they'll just try to run to another platform, and it kind of feels like that they either have terrible pathfinding in their programming, or they are just pre-programmed to go to certain spots. So you'll have imps that throw fireballs at you, that will throw a fireball at you and then maybe throw a second fireball at you, and then they'll immediately jump to another spot that's pretty obvious. This is an easy victory. That works just perfectly. So I wonder if I was to open up a pack and get preparation or one of the nerf cards right now and then dust it, will I get the full amount for that dust? I would assume the answer to that is probably yes.
Let the hunt begin.
But I'm not 100% certain on that.
With honor.
So yeah, I would definitely want Doom to be more of a system, more of a game around having probably twice as many enemies as I have. I've managed to make it to the Hell Dimension, so I'm at the first level there, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's only 3 or 4 more levels in the entire game.
I'll never tell.
Let's see.
Job's done.
So yeah, I'm not hating the game. It just feels like with the id Tech engine, there's a lot of resources that were wasted trying to make that work, and there's a lot of resources that seem like they're wasted making very big level maps that are then underutilized as far as just understanding what would be desirable in a game. All the levels feel very much like they are multiplayer map levels that are very circular and designed for human players to be on, running around shooting each other, instead of being more linear, thought out pathways. And even when you do get a point of the levels that do feel linear, that then all of a sudden feels out of place, and that feels bad too. So it really is this case of it just kind of does not feel, the entirety of the game does not feel as good as much as it was hyped by particularly the mainstream video game journalists, who said that they loved the game and it was a fast action-paced game. And I'm just not having that experience at all. If I get near enemies, they still take out 10 points of health. I've upgraded my health a lot to try and contradict some of that, but there's definitely still points of pain. You have this chainsaw, but you can't actually use the chainsaw whenever you want to, at least not in the main story. You have 3 units of fuel for the chainsaw, and depending on how big the enemy is that you want to use the chainsaw on, determines how many units of fuel is used. And fuel is not incredibly scarce, but scarce enough that you couldn't use it in a fight more than twice, really. But again, chainsaw doesn't work when a lot of the enemies are designed and trying to run away from you. And also you have this, I've upgraded an assault gun with a scope, so a lot of times as I'm entering a region where you can clearly see there are demons running around, you're just sniping these demons, shooting them in the head, playing this like it was a stealth shooter game. This feels like Gears of War, several years earlier, succeeded at being a better Doom compared to what this Doom is.
For the crusade!
For justice!
Because Gears of War was also a cover-based shooter, and Doom really shouldn't be a cover-based shooter, but it had the chainsaw on their guns and more of a action, that active reload ability in Gears of War that reloaded faster through a mini game was a cool idea. I've yet to see a boss. All I see is just every level seems to introduce maybe one or two new mid-tier style enemies, but that's it. They don't have any significant large amount of health, and they never are unique. So it's like, I thought in the previous level that I was fighting a boss because it zoomed in on them and showed it, and then I killed that creature, and then two more immediately summoned. So not really much of a boss. There's a point in the game also where you are fighting just an endless onslaught of demons, which didn't seem particularly fair, but it does, I guess, imply that you don't have to kill every demon on the map always. I am starting to wonder if I just have, in my old age, having played so many games, if I've become so much of a critic that I can't enjoy anything. That might be the case too. Like, the part of my brain where I can just turn things off and have fun. If I could do that, I imagine I would enjoy Doom a lot more. But you need to really run and gun in the game, and they really need to get rid of the collectibles. All the rune trials that I've tried are like way too difficult unless I'm warmed up, so I'm just skipping them. I'm just like, oh, this would take too many efforts, too many attempts, and I'm hoping that from the main menu I can access them later. Not that they'll be any easier at a later time. But yeah,
protects me.
There's way too many collectibles, and it does feel like resources were sucked away from the main story line to instead give way to the snap map feature and the multiplayer feature, and it seems like id Tech didn't really want to make a Doom game. I'm sure Bethesda forced them into it, and so they really just want to work on their engine, and their engine, in my opinion, is just not as good as Unreal or the Crysis engine, or even maybe the Unity engine. So, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I might be right on this, that Doom Immortal, which I think is the sequel to the Doom reboot, might be skipping straight to the Unreal Engine, which would help them have more time to work on other things. Which is exactly what they should be working on, is more storyline, although how much story can you really put in Doom? They're doing a pretty decent job trying, but you can't really make Doom Guy too different from the faceless, voiceless character that we played in Doom 1 and Doom 2. So you can only really do small amounts of characterization.
Join or die.
Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Heaven's Voice Feast of Famine, which does not look good, but it does have an interesting art style. Although I'm wondering if maybe these are pre-drawn characters. Yeah. It wouldn't be too hard, I suppose, for somebody who has like a DeviantArt page to try to make a RPG Maker game, which is pretty much all this seems to be, with their own art assets, or for somebody to make an RPG Maker game and steal somebody's art assets from DeviantArt. particularly if you're just need a couple of still images. Of course, that game does not look good even at free. Right, we'll do this. Do this.
For justice.
Attack here. Next, we have a game with a lot more prospects. We have Atelier Lulua, the Scion of Arland. And it's already rated very positively. This is a JRPG with an anime aesthetic, although don't get too confused by the anime intro. The game is going to look more like this, which is terrible. You're mostly, you have like 3 female characters and 2 male characters in this image, so I think you're going to mostly be looking at female anime characters in this JRPG. The Atelier series is one that is becoming more and more prevalent in my mind. I'm not 100% sure if it's the JRPG series to play though, or if it's good. A lot of the Atelier games seem to focus around running a shop as well as, or at least one of the games revolved around running a shop. Here we have Atelier Ferris, which is rated very positively. Here we have Atelier Sophie, which is rated very positively. Let's see if there's any other Atelier games to recommend. I would probably want to play the Tales of series before I played the Atelier series, but if I find a way to spend the time and jump into a JRPG series, I could see an argument there. I don't know how though I would be able to play JRPGs and cover all of them. They just all take way too much time, and spotlighting a JRPG is probably not a fair way to cover any kind of RPG. That being said, I wouldn't be 100% surprised if I could convince myself that there's a level of unnecessariness to playing some of the Final Fantasy games. Like, maybe it would make more sense to play more niche and small, lesser known JRPGs if I'm gonna play any kind of JRPGs. Because yeah, who hasn't heard of Final Fantasy compared to who has heard of Atelier? Those are all just on the to-do list, and the to-do list often just gets longer and longer.
For justice.
Let's see. Next, we have a story from Gamatsu. Closers for the PS4 has been delayed to June in Japan. Closers, another JRPG game. No big surprise here. That is pretty typical. And just like that, we are done with the American account. Alright. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it has been programmed so that we don't actually get any of the cards that have just been nerfed. At least for this week.
Golden Common.
Yeah, I don't think any of those were nerfed. So, we'll just go in here. And unfortunately, It's just gonna be one of those days. So we've only been going about 12 minutes, and I'm going to have to take a 20-minute bathroom break. Yeah. So, well, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess it's probably been more than 20 minutes. It's been 35 minutes. Interesting. So, let's wrap up here, and then I'll leave it just muted and come back in about 20 minutes on the live stream. And apologies for this. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.